The man history calls a monster is worshipped as a national father. How can both be true? Genghis Khan's name instantly triggers images of burning cities, screaming crowds, and unstoppable horsemen. School lessons often frame him as a merciless conqueror who left millions dead across Asia and Eastern Europe. Yet in Mongolia, he is honored as the founder of the nation, a bringer of order, law, and unity. His empire showed surprising religious openness and even elevated certain women into real positions of influence. So who was Genghis Khan beneath the legends and horror stories? Today, we're uncovering 9 striking truths about him that may change how you see this infamous ruler. First, the name Genghis Khan was actually a title, not what he was called at birth. His story begins near the Onan River around 1162. When he entered the world, his parents named him Temujin, a word often interpreted as related to blacksmith or iron. Years later, during a council of steppe clans, he was chosen as the supreme leader of the Mongols and granted the title we know today as Genghis Khan. Khan was already a familiar label for chiefs, but the origin of the word Genghis is still debated. Some historians associate it with ocean, others with universal or rightful, yet they generally agree it conveyed the idea of an ultimate sovereign above all others. His dramatic rise didn't begin from comfort or safety. Temujin's childhood was brutally hard. He did not simply wake up one day commanding an empire. Instead, his early years in the harsh steppe carved him into a relentless survivor and strategist. When he was about 9, his father, who led a small tribe, was poisoned by enemies from the Tatar people. After his father's death, Temujin's family was abandoned by their own followers. They were left in the wilderness, scrambling for food in a world with no mercy. Rumors say that as a boy, he even killed his half-brother after a dispute over hunting spoils, a chilling sign of the ruthless will that would later define his rule. Things only got worse. As a young man, Temujin and his wife Borta were seized by rival groups. He was forced into slavery, humiliated, and used as a servant. Somehow, he managed to escape captivity and return to freedom. By his early 20s, he had transformed from desperate outcast into a rising war leader. He built alliances, crushed rivals, and steadily united numerous nomadic tribes under his banner. The scattered clans of the Mongolian steppe, once constantly feuding, were forged into a single fearsome force. Temujin was finally ready to rule the whole region as Genghis Khan. What's surprising is how he treated former enemies. Many of those who once stood against him later became his closest commanders. Genghis chose his generals based on talent and loyalty in the present, not on old grudges or noble birth. One famous example comes from his battle with the Taichiud clan around 1201. In that conflict, he was nearly killed when an arrow brought his horse crashing to the ground. After the war, he demanded to know which enemy archer had dared to strike him. Instead of hiding, one warrior boldly admitted he had fired the shot. Genghis admired this courage and honesty. Rather than executing him, he appointed the man as a trusted officer and gave him a new name meaning arrow or bolt to mark their deadly first meeting. That once hostile archer, known to history as Jebe, would fight alongside the legendary general Subutai and help lead Mongol armies to massive victories across Asia and into Europe. But mercy from Genghis always came with conditions. He was infamous for never forgetting an insult and never leaving a grudge unresolved. Although the Mongols were terrifying on the battlefield, they sometimes offered cities and rulers a stark choice before an attack: surrender peacefully, pay tribute, and accept Mongol authority, or refuse and face total destruction. Those who submitted often kept their lives and a measure of local control. Those who resisted were frequently wiped out with shocking brutality. Historians estimate that campaigns under Genghis Khan caused the deaths of tens of millions. Some modern scholars suggest over 40 million people may have died as a direct or indirect result of his wars. In China alone, entire regions were depopulated.
During the invasion of the Khwarazm Empire, an enormous part of the population in areas that are now Iran and Central Asia was killed. It's been argued that as much as 11% of the world's population at the time vanished because of the Mongol onslaught. So, was he only a merciless butcher? To many, yes, yet others see him as a visionary who reshaped the world with brutal efficiency. Genghis is remembered both as a ruthless destroyer and as an innovator who reorganized armies, implemented new laws, and linked distant cultures through trade. History's greatest conquerors are often both creators and destroyers at once. One of the most surprising sides of Genghis Khan was his approach to faith. Though he personally followed an ancient steppe belief system centered on the sky god Tengri, spirits, and the forces of nature, he generally did not persecute other religions. In his empire, Muslims, Christians, Buddhists, Taoists, and other followers of traditions were often allowed to practice openly. He invited religious leaders from many backgrounds to his court, listened to their teachings, and questioned how their beliefs shaped people's behavior. This curiosity reportedly increased as he grew older and more powerful. His empire also needed something radical for its time: fast communication. To keep control over vast distances, Genghis developed one of the earliest large-scale relay courier networks, known as the Yam. Under this system, relay stations stretched across the Mongol domains, where tired messengers could swap exhausted horses for fresh ones and keep riding. With this chain of posts, information, official orders, and valuable goods could travel astonishing distances in a single day. It became the nervous system of the empire, crucial for spreading news, coordinating trade, and orchestrating complex military campaigns. Then comes one of the greatest mysteries: his death. We are still not sure exactly how Genghis Khan died or where his body lies. Some chronicles claim he passed away in 1227 from injuries after falling from a horse. Other accounts suggest he succumbed to illness, perhaps fever or malaria, or from wounds inflicted by arrows. There's even a lurid story that he died while attacking a noblewoman and was fatally injured in the struggle, though most historians treat that version with deep skepticism. What we do know is he went to extraordinary lengths to keep his resting place a secret. According to legend, his funeral procession killed everyone they encountered on the journey to prevent witnesses from revealing the route. After his burial, riders supposedly trampled the ground with their horses and even diverted a river to cover the site. Many scholars believe his tomb may be somewhere near a sacred mountain in Mongolia, often identified as Borkhan Haldon, but no confirmed grave has ever been found. Sometimes the most powerful men in history vanish without a trace. Centuries later, another empire tried to erase him again, this time from memory. During the 20th century, when Mongolia fell under Soviet influence, Genghis Khan became politically dangerous. The authorities saw him as a symbol of strong national identity and potential resistance. It became forbidden to glorify him. In some places, even mentioning his name was discouraged or outright banned. His story disappeared from school textbooks, and access to regions linked with his life, including his birthplace, was tightly controlled. Only after Mongolia regained its independence in the 1990s did Genghis Khan return fully to public life. Textbooks were rewritten, monuments appeared, and he was openly hailed once again as the founding father of the Mongolian nation. Today, his image is everywhere, from statues and museums to currency and official buildings. One of the country's major international airports near Ulaanbaatar has been named in his honor, welcoming visitors under the gaze of the once feared conqueror. His face even looks out from Mongolian banknotes, a constant reminder of how deeply he shapes the country's identity. So who was Genghis Khan? A ruthless warlord responsible for staggering loss of life, or a unifier who built bridges across cultures and reshaped Eurasia? The truth lies somewhere in the tension between those extremes. His story forces us to confront uncomfortable questions about power, ambition, and how we choose our heroes. If you learned something new, or your view of Genghis Khan shifted even a little, tap like to help more curious minds find this video and support Winds of Thought. And if you love exploring the hidden sides of history, hit subscribe and tell us which empire, ruler, or era you want us to uncover next.